Hi everyone, welcome to this session by Astro Secrets. Today's video is going to be a bit special because I'm going to walk you through the complete Kundli reading. Okay, so I have on my screen right now two things. One, you have ascendant chart, which is D1, also called D1. If you create a Kundli in any mobile app, you will be able to see D1 and D9 chart, right? So I have with me ascendant or Lagna chart, as famously called, and D9 chart, right? So two different charts are available on the screen. Yeah. To start with, let's cover the basics. So there are 12 signs in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see on the left hand side. Sign number 1 corresponds to Aries. So if it is written 1 here in the chart, if it is written 1, then that means Aries is there in that particular house. Okay. Aries again is ruled by Mars, which is denoted by MA here. Okay. So the Lord of uh, this particular chart will be Mars. Okay. Likewise, you will have to read. So if you have written like let's say 2 here, then the sign is Taurus. Lord for this house will be Venus. Okay. So this is the way to read what are the signs, different signs mentioned in the chart, and who are the lords basically for those particular houses. Okay. We also had seen different planets. Okay. And for all the planets, one other thing I'm covering here is basically plus and minus. So what does it mean, plus and minus? If the planet is basically in that particular sign, so if against 10, if it is written as Mars, okay, the planet basically is in this particular sign in this house, then Mars is considered very very auspicious. Okay. On the other hand, if Mars is there in the fourth sign, okay, and in this particular house, then it is considered as very inauspicious and might give you bad results. Okay. Similarly, if Sun is mentioned here in the seventh sign, then it is going to be debilitated and may lead to bad results. Okay. So this is the way you can also consider, like, plus and minus sign. If the plus sign is existing along with the planet, then you can consider that planet as very auspicious. Okay. So in this particular Kundli, I have also, apart from other videos, the degrees are not covered, but I have covered the degrees as well on the right hand bottom corner, if you're able to see. Okay. So if the degree is between 0 to 6, the effect is going to be 25%. Okay. There are exception to this rule. That means if the degree is 0 to 2, yeah, so either 0 or 1 degree, or let's say up to 2 degrees also, then the effect is going to be negligible. Yeah, I'm just marking it as 0%, but effect is going to be negligible in this particular case. If the degree is 6 to 12, then the effect is going to be from that particular planet 50%. Okay. If the degree is between 12 to 18, then the effect that planet will have on your life is going to be 100%, which is the highest. Yeah. Then again, there are other elements also to consider, but then this is the first and foremost kind of one rule that you can consider. If the degree is between 12 to 18, then the impact is going to be 100%. Next, we have 18 to 24 degrees. The impact is going to be 50%. 24 to 30 degrees, again 25%. Okay. So you have it like you can consider it as a bell curve, right? So you have 100% here. Okay. This is maybe, Let me make it in this format. So you can consider it in this particular format. Okay. So if let's say this is my 12 to 16, 12 to 18 degrees, the effect is going to be 100%. If it is like 6 to 12, then the effect is going to be 50%. Okay, 18 to 24, again, effect is going to be 50%. Okay. And here likewise 25%, and on the right hand side 25%. Okay. So a very basic element to consider, if a planet is kind of going to be very very auspicious for you, whether the degree is also matching or not. If the degree is, let's say, 100% for a very auspicious planet, then you are bound to get very good results from that particular planet. Okay. If the degree is less, then the impact or effect that you are going to receive from that planet is going to be less. Okay. I hope this is very much clear. We are going to cover the planets also a little bit. Let's say Sun, Jupiter, Mars, and Moon are considered in one bracket. Okay, they are kind of friends to each other. Okay, if you have, let's say, Venus, Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu, they are friends with each other, and therefore kind of the impact or the effect that they will have. Let's suppose two friends sit with each other, then they are bound to kind of amplify whatever effect you are going to get. If they sit with, let's say, enemies, then it's uh, going to be problematic for you, right? So if, let's say, Sun and Venus, okay, Sun and Venus, ideally any graha or our planet that sits with Sun will kind of combust, right? There are very very high chances for Mercury and Venus almost all the time, but this is the condition along with Sun. But let's say Jupiter and Rahu or Ketu, okay, are with each other, okay, in a single house, then it's the results might not be that good because they are enemy to each other, and therefore whatever results that they are going to give will not be that much beneficial. Okay, so I hope these three basic conditions are clear. So we have different signs with respect to those signs, we have their lords. Okay, and then we have different planets, okay, which are mentioned in the D1 and D9 chart. Okay, next we are going to start with, let's say, uh, I have already covered it also. So if you have Aries ascendant, okay, which are going to be the Marak Grah. Okay, Marak is in the planets which are going to be inauspicious. Okay, so the first is written here. So second and seventh lord basically are considered as Marak. Okay, in case of this D1 chart, second and seventh both correspond to Venus, right? So Venus is going to fall into, let's say, inauspicious category for this particular person. Okay. So let's say we consider two things. We consider auspicious and inauspicious. Okay, two different categories. Maybe let me change the color a bit. Inauspicious. Okay. So I guess I already covered it. So Venus will mark it here. Okay. Auspicious planets are nothing but, let's see, if you look at the first house, okay, the ascendant house basically. So the sign that is there in ascendant house, so this house basically, I will mark it as well. This house is first house. Okay, in the first house you have one written, right? Houses are written in Roman letters, please keep in mind, 1 to 12, and houses are always and every time fixed. Okay, in this particular case, against first you have one written, right? One corresponds to Aries. Okay, Aries means the lord of this ascendant chart is Mars. Okay, it is driven by Mars. the person will be kind of fiery in nature. There are other elements also we'll explore, but this is in total you can consider from one being mentioned in the first house. Okay. The other element that we have to cover, and if you take a look on the left hand side table, here it is written that if sun is in first sign, okay, then sun is going to be kind of, whatever results sun is going to give, it is going to be amplified. Okay, it is going to prove very very auspicious. Okay, so in this particular case, since sun is there in the first house itself, the auspicious planets list will grow. So sun, I will write plus here. Okay, also we can take a look at the degree of the sun. So degree of the sun is, let's say, between 12 to 18 degrees, right? So it is going to be, let's say, more than 100%. Okay, so I'll just maybe not more than 100%, but obviously, like, very very auspicious for this particular kundli. Okay, so I'm writing double plus here basically. Okay, if we talk about, let's say, Venus, one, it is there along with sun. We also have to take a look at the degrees, the difference between sun and the planets that we are going to cover in a later chapter. Okay, so for now Venus degree is, let's say, 23. So the it is falling under, let's say, 50% ka bracket. Okay, so it is falling under 50% ka bracket. So whatever it is, the impact Venus is going to give, we can consider whether it is really inauspicious for this kundli or not. Right now we are just concerned about the D1 chart, right? We are just taking a look at D1 chart. So 50%, and let's say it is going to be inauspicious, so minus. Okay. Next, we have Jupiter. Yeah, Jupiter in the second house. Okay. So Jupiter right now is in, let's say, the houses that we need to consider. Okay. Uh, right now it is in the second house, and the sign is of Venus, right? Venus, if we take a look at the planetary affiliations, Venus is on good terms with Mercury, but on not so good terms with Jupiter, right? So here Jupiter may be, let's say, Mercury may be considered kind of, in the inauspicious category because it is friends to Venus. Okay, and enemy to the ascendant lord. Ascendant lord is who? Mars, right? And Mars is not on good terms with Mercury. Okay, so we'll just mark it minus. Then we'll move to Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter is going to be auspicious for this kundli. Why so? Because it is friend of the ascendant lord Mars, right? Jupiter is going to be beneficial. Whether how much beneficial, again, it is between 12 to 18 degrees, so we'll mark a plus here. Okay, then next we have Mars itself, who is sitting in the third house and third sign, which is Gemini, right? Gemini sign is of Mercury, so although the house is of enemy, right, but Mars will be considered auspicious because one, it is ascendant lord itself. Second, it is there in the house where you know it itself has given the house which is the third one. Okay, so Mars. Okay, after Mars we have, let's say, Ketu Dev, which is in the fifth sign, which is of Sun. So Ketu might prove inauspicious. Okay, Ketu Dev degree is, let's say, 7 degrees, so it is going to be 50%. Okay, Mars is going to be plus because, let's say, 7 degrees again, it's a 50% around that. Okay, Ketu we have already covered. Saturn. Next we are going to take a look at Saturn. So the house that Saturn has is really good. Okay, it is there in the house of Jupiter, although it may be considered enemy, but somewhere like it cannot be directly considered as an enemy, because Jupiter is a house of wisdom, and Saturn is a house of kind of detailed search and all that. So Saturn is going to prove auspicious here. Okay, the second thing that we can take a look at is both 10 and 11. So 10 is kind of a really good house, and 11 also is a good house. So 5, 9 and 11 are good houses, trine houses basically, and 10 is a kendra house. So Saturn will prove good for this particular kundli. It is 20 degrees, so it is again, let's say, 50%. Okay, next we are going to talk about, let's say, moon and Rahu, right? So moon is there in 11th house. Moon kind of is in an enemy territory. Okay, so not maybe green is something we might have to consider. If you take a look at the overall lagna ascendant lord, then it can be considered as a friend. Okay, therefore in this particular case we might make an exception and consider moon to be auspicious. Okay, if we consider, let's say, Rahu. Okay, Rahu is at 7 degrees. Okay, and Rahu is not in a friend's house, but then again Rahu is there in Saturn's house, right? And it has got a really good house. Okay, so Rahu can be mentioned here itself. Okay, Rahu's degrees is, let's say, 7 degrees, so again 50%. Okay, Ketu, Dev has got a good house as well. However, Rahu and Ketu by nature are considered, so maybe it is debatable. I will just mark maybe Rahu and Ketu. It's something like Rahu and Ketu. Okay, they have got good houses, but not in a friend's place, right? So Rahu is in a friend's place. Okay, so he is in a better placed than Ketu, who is in enemy place. Okay, that too is not on good terms with the Lagna Lord, right? Ascendant Lord. Okay, so overall we have seen D1 chart, right? How do we correlate it with D9 chart basically? Okay, so couple of things that we have to take care of is, and basis this kundli only I will say maybe. So Sun, first of all, we have already seen that Sun is in a sign of auspiciousness here in this particular case. The second case that we have to see is the sign of, let's say, in the first sign we have already considered Sun and Venus. Okay, uh, so we have to mix and match between D1 and D9. So D1, if a planet is there in both the charts, if it is there in the same sign, okay, it is going to prove very, very auspicious. Okay, so if we take a look at, let's say, D1 chart, number one has Sun and Venus. Okay, if we take a look at one is empty. Okay, next if we consider Jupiter, Jupiter is in second sign, and same thing there in the D9 chart as well. So Jupiter is in a really good position, or very well positioned for this particular chart. Okay, this is for second sign basically. If we go to third sign, okay, third sign has Mars, but in the second D9 chart it is having Ketu. Fourth sign again, it is not having anything on the left hand side. Right hand side as well, it has ascendant. Okay, After fourth sign, if we go to fifth sign Ketu, fifth sign in the second chart, if we take a look at it, is empty. Sixth and seven and eight, likewise, all three of them are empty. Okay. However, okay, if we take a look at the second chart, okay, Saturn is placed in its own sign. Basically, it is in a sign of auspiciousness, to be honest, not in its own sign. So if you take a look at left hand side, you see Saturn and 7, right? So Saturn is going to prove auspicious for this particular Kundli. Okay. Next, we are going to take a look at moon, or 7 we have already, so 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 we have already considered. Next, we are going to consider maybe 9. Okay, so Saturn, here it is Mars and Rahu. Okay, and after 9 we have 10. Okay, so if we take a look at 10, it is empty, right? If we take a look at 11, on the left hand side it has moon, on the right hand side again it has moon. So 14 degrees here, 8 degrees here. So moon is going to prove very auspicious for this Kundli. Okay. There may be some cases. So if you take a look at 6, 8 and 12 houses, these are the houses which are not considered good in terms of, considering overall, it is considered evil as well. Okay. So that particular piece might have to be considered here, but overall, from let's say matching D1 and D9, moon is in a sign of its auspiciousness, because it is placed in sign number 11 on left hand side, Aquarius sign. On the D9 chart as well, it is placed in the sign number 11. Okay, if we take a look at, let's say, 12, 12 is empty on the D1 chart, and right hand side it is having Mercury. Okay. uh, Overall, if we consider now basis this, so there are few planets which are going to prove beneficial. There are some cases in which, let's say, sun is very auspicious, but if we take a look at the D9 chart, sun is at 2 degrees, okay, which is not really good. Okay, so if you consider D1 as a tree, D9 is the fruit that you will generate out of D1. Okay, so sun is not in a good position in D9 chart. It is at 2 degrees, and the effect, the impact that it will have might be negligible. We already covered that part, right? So 0 to 1 or 2 degrees is considered negligible, having negligible impact. Okay. While in the case of Jupiter, it is on the D1 chart, it is placed really well. It is going to give 100% result. If we take a look at D9 chart, again it is placed in a really well position. Okay, so D9 chart, Jupiter is at 22 degrees. Although the amount of impact is less at 50%, but that is considering overall that the impact is amplified, Jupiter is going to prove very beneficial. Okay, so maybe let me put here negative, because in D9 chart sun is at 2 degrees, but if I consider Jupiter, it is going to prove, basis the D9 chart, it is going to prove beneficial only for the person. Okay, if we consider Mars, okay, in the first Kundli it is at 7 degree, it is having plus sign. In the second, it is there in the uh, ninth sign, which is a friend's sign basically. Okay, so it is well positioned, it is in a friend's sign only. So kind of the house is a bit bad, but then again, for considering Mars and considering this house is related to work, it can be considered good. Okay, basis the D9. Okay, if we take a look at Saturn, it is really well positioned in D1 chart. About, let's say, D1 chart it is well placed, D9 chart also it is really well placed. We already covered that part, and so here it is marked as plus and plus. Okay, if we consider moon, okay, So moon is in 11th house, and we covered a bit of it as well. Moon kind of plus by plus. Okay, if we consider Venus, okay, Venus is combust and its impact is, let's say, at very impact is very low at 50% only. But if we consider the second chart, okay, it is positioned really well. Okay, however at a very low degree, so around 3 degrees is low basically, right? So 0 to 2 we considered, so around 25% result it is what it will give maybe after a certain period of time, which is, let's say, D9 gets activated around 33 or 30 years, so we can consider that as well. Okay, so since it is placed well in the D9, we can consider that it is not going to be fully inauspicious, but there may be some element where it will give good results. Okay, because it is uh, placed in a really good house. So trine houses are 5th, 9th and 11th. Okay, it is placed in the 5th house itself. If we take a look at, let's say, Mercury, okay, Mercury is on the left hand side, it is placed in 2nd house itself, enemy of the ascendant lord. But if we take a look at the Navamsha D9 chart itself, it is placed well in the trine houses. Okay, and it is going to give around, let's say, 50% result. Okay, so it is going to basically give mixed results similar to Venus, which is going to be mixed results. Okay, so not fully inauspicious in both the cases. If we consider Rahu and Ketu, Rahu basically is in 11 is a house of Saturn. So Rahu is in a friend's house in the D1 chart. If we take a look at D9 chart, basically Rahu again, Rahu is in a house of the enemy. Okay, so it may give, let's say, instead of plus, we can have, let's say, minus. Okay, so kind of plus and minus, so it is again mixed result. If we consider Ketu Dev, okay, it is he is there in kind of, let's say, 5th, which is sign of sun. He is in an enemy house, and he is going to give, let's say, in the right hand side, if we take a look at it, he is there in 3rd sign, which is a sign of Mercury, who is on good terms, so he is kind of going to give mixed results. Okay, so this is considering overall there are planets. So sun, who is going to give good results, but then again there are bound to be some scenario where the result is not that much which is expected. Jupiter is going to prove very beneficial, Mars is going to prove beneficial, Saturn is going to prove beneficial, Moon is going to prove beneficial. Venus and Mercury are going to give mixed results. Rahu and Ketu may or may not give good or bad results. Okay, depending on the Mahadasa and Antardasa, that can be deciphered. Okay. I hope with this video you got to understand a little bit about reading a Kundli end to end. Okay, there are multiple more aspects we'll be covering in next few videos, but this is how to read a Kundli. Just to revise, maybe there are houses which are fixed. So I have written, let's say, first house already written. This is my second house. This is my third house. This is my fourth house. This is my 5th house. This is my 6th house, 7th house, 8th house, 9th house, 10th house, 11th house, 12th house. Okay. Similarly, in the second one, the houses will remain constant. First house, second house, third house, fourth house, 5th house, 6th house, 7th house, 8th house, 9th house, 10th house, 11th house and 12th house. Okay, so houses are fixed, signs are changing. D1 chart has own sign in every houses. So first house has first sign, second house has second sign. If you take a look at the D9 chart, it is differing a little bit. So first house has fourth sign, second house has fifth sign, sixth sign, 7, 8, 9, likewise. Okay. Just one more element to cover in this particular kundli. So if you take a look at the D1 chart, it is first house has 1 mentioned in it. Okay. If you take a look at D9 chart, first house has 4 mentioned in it. Okay. So if we want to consider inclination of this person after, let's say, 30 or 35 years of age, we can consider like this fourth sign, where was it in D1 chart. So if we take a look at the D1 chart, it was in this particular house. Okay, this house is of assets. Okay, so basis this, after a certain period of time, this person will be inclined to building assets. Okay, if let's say 2 was mentioned in this particular, instead of 4 it was mentioned as 2, then the person will be inclined towards making money. If it is 3, then the person is inclined towards, let's say, uh, making progress, making a kind of, taking initiatives and all. Okay. If 4 is mentioned, again we covered 4 is with vehicles, house, mother. So fourth is with respect to assets. Okay. Fifth, if it was written, then the person will be, let's say, fifth house deals with a little bit of luck and all. So fifth house, the person will be lucky. Okay. Likewise, if let's say 7 is written, then the person is inclined towards wife, family and all. Okay. If let's say 10 is written, then the person is inclined towards profession. If let's say 11 is written, then again the person is inclined towards money and all that. So likewise, you will have to, you will be able to determine it. So just I wanted to cover this angle before we wrap this up. Okay, so I hope this is pretty much clear. If you have any comments, any questions pertaining to how I deciphered this, please feel free to uh, drop me a message. Okay, do share, like, subscribe if overall you really kind of love this video. Thank you, thanks a lot.